Ole Miss needs to get past this quarterback drama in order to reach their goals, but that's a lot easier sounding than it actually is.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. On today's show, we will start with the conversation about the quarterbacks that has everybody buzzing. Trinidad Chambliss, is actually beginning to pop up on some Heisman watch lists. While that's exciting and all, but it's fueling one of the biggest debates amongst the Ole Miss fan base right now. The truth is, for the Rebels to reach their goals this season, they must find a way to put this quarterback drama behind them before it derails the momentum that Lane Kiffin has built. Next, we will shift our focus to Garrett Nussmeier. After a clutch performance in last year's overtime win against Ole Miss, many believe he's non-negotiable in this matchup. But the real key for the Rebels defense isn't containing Nussmeier. It's stopping the run. If Ole Miss does that, they will be fine. As wild as it sounds, you actually want to force Nussmeier into one-dimensional game and beat you through the air. That means the Ole Miss front seven has to show up absolutely big. All of this and more on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day. And a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if that bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Interesting stuff. All right, so for the third straight day, we're going to be talking about quarterbacks on this show, and this is after the injury to Austin Simmons against Kentucky. Trinidad Chambliss came in and has been a revelation in the Ole Miss offense. And Lane Kiffin at his press conference on Monday actually pointed out when Austin Simmons gets healthy, he is going to be the starting quarterback. So the question becomes, is Austin Simmons healthy? And how healthy is he going into this LSU game? Because you can't have a less than 100% quarterback going up against this LSU offensive line. Ask DJ Lagway about that. That is problematic at best. Take a Trinidad Chambliss, who is an excellent runner of the football, and put him against that LSU's defense, and you might be able to turn him loose a little bit. Maybe the deep shots downfield is problematic, but if you played Trinidad Chambliss, you would be able to find out if the LSU defense is a bridge too far for your backup quarterback, essentially. And that's an interesting thought, because if he comes out against LSU and absolutely balls, which nobody has, LSU's defense to this point looks exactly like Ole Miss's defense a year ago to me. They're just really hard to move the ball against, and they're a really good unit through all of the transfer portal buying that LSU did. Trinidad Chambliss is the best option in my mind for this game. And that's as far as I'm willing to go. Now, if Trinidad Chambliss throws for 400 yards and runs for another 100 and has a superstar type game against LSU, besides vaulting up the Heisman rankings this year, it would also make the next week's bye week extremely weird with what is going on, because Chambliss has just grabbed this quarterbacking job over the last 2 weeks. And Austin Simmons, who you've heard me talk about, he's a 1-1 level talent at quarterback. The ball just looks absolutely different coming out of his hand. He is somebody that rushed to come back against Arkansas, re-injured, re-aggravated the ankle, did not play against Tulane. And if the rumors are true, and I have no reason not to doubt them, he was a full go in practice yesterday. And that doesn't mean he's 100%. That doesn't mean he's going to start. All that means is he practiced, as opposed to standing there in a walking boot like he did each of the previous 2 weeks for practice. So LSU probably needs to plan on both. honestly, if we're going to be real about it. And this is an opportunity for Lane Kiffin to kind of handle this last situation before the bye week and things get potentially weird. Now, there's some other things that happened in practice as well. Some receivers came back that Ole Miss has been needing to come back ever since the beginning of the season, and they were working full go. They're ready to practice. They're ready for the game on Saturday, as you would expect for LSU. But everybody's mind's on this quarterback situation. And Austin Simmons, in my heart of hearts, I think Austin Simmons is the guy. I don't think he needs to start against LSU because I don't think his ankle is 100% back yet. And that defense is so good. It would be really great if you could make it through this game with Trinidad Chambliss, beat LSU, and then Austin Simmons gets Washington State before he has to go to Athens and Norman. That feels like the right move to make. That feels like the direction they are trying to take this. But the fact remains, if Ole Miss goes to Athens or if they go to Norman and they're continuing to play this quarterback game, the team will suffer. Listen, this gives you a benefit for a couple of weeks, but after a while it gets stale and it's not going to do anything but cause a distraction inside of your locker room. So it needs to be wrapped up with quickness, one way or another. It needs to be wrapped up. I've told you where I think it's going to go, but Trinidad Chambliss is absolutely taking the bull by the horns in the last two games. And if he has another big day like he did the previous two games, he will start against Washington State. That I am quite certain of. Listen, I always talk on this show, and I have talked on this show, that the danger of Austin Simmons getting Wally pipped was real. And nobody expected a D2 transfer to start playing against SEC level opponents and just starting to ball. Dropping dimes on the sideline, doing the Eli Manning to Mario Manningham pass on the outside from Trinidad Chambliss to Deuce Alexander. The number of players popping up, the ball being spread around to all the different wide receivers. I can see why the upswell for Trinidad Chambliss is happening. And just having that name, Trinidad Chambliss, is just on the tip of everybody's tongue nationally. But it is important to remember right now while all of this is going on, especially if you're an Ole Miss fan. There's a reason that Austin Simmons won this job. There's no reason to think that Austin Simmons couldn't have put up exactly the same numbers against Arkansas and against Tulane. There's no reason to think that it wouldn't happen. Now, Austin Simmons has trouble if there's another game where he has 2 first-quarter interceptions. Yeah, he probably has a shorter leash. That's one of the benefits that you have right now in having 2 quarterbacks, because you have 2 really good quarterbacks. This isn't a situation to where if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. You hear old timers and old heads say that all the time. If you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. That's not true. Ole Miss has 2 really good quarterbacks. And to put that in perspective, 4 weeks ago, if I told you that Ole Miss was going to go down a quarterback in the second game of the season on the road at Kentucky and have to bring in a D2 transfer at quarterback for Arkansas and Tulane, you're like, well, they're going to go 2-2. Going to LSU, they might be 2-3 at the end of September with that exact scenario. That didn't happen. And that is because there's 2 really good quarterbacks. But for Ole Miss to hit the goals they want to hit, this has to get solved soon, one way or another. Not necessarily a package, not necessarily all of that. I'm just talking about all of the drama. And Lane Kiffin did his part at the press conference on Monday when he said that Austin Simmons is the starter when he's 100% healthy. The question is, at what point will he be 100% healthy? It sounds like he will be the starter for Washington State. That's what it sounds like for me. Trinidad Chambliss, in my opinion, is probably going to take the first snap against LSU. Now, there's a chance that Austin Simmons plays in this game and they package it because of his arm talent and all of that stuff. I think there's a chance that both quarterbacks could be on the field at the same time. Last week, we saw 4 different tight ends in the first quarter. The offense and everything built around what Trinidad does well. I think this staff will do whatever it takes to win this game, because if Ole Miss wins this game, especially when you look at the fact that Washington State got beat 59-10 by North Texas, when they got beat 59-30 or something like that by Washington. If Ole Miss wins this game, they're likely going to start 6-0 and be in the tippy top breath for the college football playoff. So we'll see exactly how that looks. You know, this game feels like a Pete Golding game to me. Sure, we can talk about all of the offensive weapons for both teams, but when it comes down to it, this matchup will hinge on one thing. Can Ole Miss's defense get stops in key moments? Golding's ability to scheme pressure, disguise coverage, and limit explosive plays will decide if Ole Miss controls this game or if it turns into another shootout. We'll talk about everything that Golding has to do and why this game might define his season. That's all coming up next. You know, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every model. You can make every day feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence almost through any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make the move, every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. You know, most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. When you don't have the full picture, you're ended up leaving money on the table, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. So if you're putting off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money, all without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can identify that you aren't saving as much as you thought potentially. Monarch helps you notice inefficient investment allocations and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONCollege. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Subscribe to the podcast on whatever audio podcatcher you're listening to and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but it helps keep all of this free. If you want more, join the Insiders program at the subtext link down below. It costs absolutely nothing. All right, no trolls, 14-day free trial, and the easiest way ever to cancel, so give that a try. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, is ready for you. And we'll see exactly what that looks like for Ole Miss in this game. The subtext links should be a lot of fun. Anyway, it's time to deep dive and start getting into the LSU Tigers. We've been talking quarterbacks all week. Let's start talking about the LSU Tigers and the keys to winning this game. One of the things that I definitely am looking at, this is an absolutely massive game. The winner of this football game is likely heading to the college football playoffs, so the stakes are absolutely through the roof. If you lose this game, you're likely not going to the college football playoff, because when you look at the other big games that each side has, LSU has to play Alabama, Oklahoma, a game against Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt. They have to go up there, and that's not a gimme. Ole Miss has Georgia and Oklahoma, and then they play Florida and South Carolina that has the talent to jump up and get you, and a road game at Mississippi State that looks tougher by the day. But if you look at the keys in this game, the number one key in this game, everybody's going to talk about Garrett Nussmeier and LSU's defense, and neither one of those are the important part of this game. You need to stop LSU from running the football and make Garrett Nussmeier beat you throwing the ball. That sounds counterintuitive. I get that. But you need to make LSU predictable offensively. And the easiest way to accomplish that is by stopping the run, which they've struggled to do this season anyway. Listen, LSU is going to go off on somebody this year. It's going to look like Ole Miss against Arkansas or Ole Miss against Georgia last season. There's a lot of similarities between this LSU team and that Ole Miss team. You just hope it isn't you. And the way you prevent that from happening is by stopping the run, because when LSU's offense gets predictable, it's honestly not very good. Everybody talks about DJ Lagway throwing 5 interceptions against LSU down in Tiger Stadium, but nobody's really talking about LSU only scoring 7 points off of those interceptions. Offensively, they did return in a pick 6 back to the house to score as well, but that was their 2 touchdowns in the game, essentially. The other thing is force explosive plays on defense, basically sacks, tackles for loss, or turnovers in this game that has a chance to be an extremely low-scoring game. It would not surprise me if in the fourth quarter you look up and it's 17-17. How you take care of the ball and how you get the ball is going to be very important. This defense, to this point, has not forced many explosive plays, although they did have the interception against Tulane at the end. Cedric Beavers making flashing a little bit at the end of the game, and against Arkansas they got a fumble, so explosive plays were the way they were able to win those as well. But in a tight game, explosives are going to be important, and Ole Miss offensively needs to play a clean game, because every turnover or penalty helps LSU's offense wake up and beat you. Don't give them a short field. Play the game the same way that you have against Arkansas and Tulane. If you do that, you will be absolutely fine. I'm not saying LSU needs your help. This is going to be the most talented team that Ole Miss faces on the schedule. But what I'm saying is, when your enemy is better than you potentially, you probably should not help them. And Ole Miss, if they play clean like they did against Arkansas and clean like they did against Tulane, they're going to be just fine. This is going to be a big game. It's a massive game. We talked about the 3 permanent opponents in last night's show. Tune that in. There was a live stream with Dalen Flowers at 5 o'clock yesterday. There was a 10-minute video with Ryan McGee from ESPN, so check that out as well. But when you look at what this game could mean for Ole Miss this year, is huge, absolutely massive. And the way to get to it is by doing the same thing that LSU did to you last year in Tiger Stadium. Get in the fourth quarter, make it a 1-score game. Let the pressure rise on Brian Kelly. Let the pressure rise on Garrett Nussmeier. Let the pressure rise on LSU's defense, and allow the Ole Miss offense and everybody to make plays. Just like 2023, take away the crazy scoreline. That's the way to get at this LSU team. Brian Kelly's already snapped at a reporter asking about the run game, which means the pressure is likely getting to him and what's going on there. If LSU loses a game, they know it gets really iffy, especially with a game at Tuscaloosa and a game at Vanderbilt and a game in Norman, Oklahoma on the schedule to close out this year. This is a game they absolutely have to try to win, because if they lose this game, it could all fall apart. And they invested so much money in their roster this year. Their defense is fantastic. Just players everywhere. Their offense, there's still some issues going on there. And unlike Ole Miss, they haven't quite figured it out. And don't give me they scored 56 points against Sela. I'm just not really ready to go there right now. Anyway, so in our final segment, this LSU team has a lot of 2024 Ole Miss vibes. Every tight game on the road is going to keep just adding pressure, and while they're bound to blow somebody out like Ole Miss did against Arkansas and Georgia last year, The real question is, what happens if it's close late? And if it's a one-score game in the fourth quarter, the advantage kind of shifts to Ole Miss because of the weight of all of those close calls coming up. We'll break down the parallels and what that means for the Tigers the rest of the season coming up next. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if that bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Listen, it makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on the fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit of extra energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. You know, there is a template to beat this LSU team, and I know that they have brought some players in the portal, and they're a little bit better team, but there is a template of what's happened, and Brian Kelly himself is the reason that this was brought to our attention. He said that he is handling this week real similarly to the LSU Texas A&M game from a year ago. And just listening to it and all of that, you wouldn't freak out about it. But if you see this, you see that A&M beat LSU by 15 points and completely skull dragged them in the second half. They just absolutely took them apart through running simple zone read plays. They had trouble stopping a running quarterback, and a running quarterback was able to unlock their whole defense whenever you look at what Blake Baker has on that side of the ball. This is the template. Connor Weigman didn't have the best game. He was a pocket passer. He did not throw for very many yards, but neither did Marcel Reed. But Marcel Reed was able to come in and run the zone read, and they were able to get explosive play after explosive play after explosive play on the run. And that tells me, again, that probably Trinidad should start this game. Not be the starting quarterback at this point, but start this game. If you look at what to watch for in this game, I think LSU is basically the Ole Miss team from 2024 so far this season. So can you force the pressure to build on LSU? How do they handle it? That will be really interesting. And also the Ole Miss defense affecting Garrett Nussmeier. It's not necessarily sacks. It's just affecting him. That'll be a key in this game, and it's likely the easiest path to a victory for Ole Miss. And third of all, do not under any circumstances, no circumstances, give LSU a short field. Make them drive the length of the field to score a touchdown, and you should be pretty good there. This is the best team that Ole Miss has played this year. Ole Miss actually has to come out and give their best effort to handle LSU. And I expect Ole Miss to give out their best effort in this game. With players rumored coming back, with Austin Simmons rumored taking part in practice, and we're not knowing who the starting quarterback is going to be this weekend, the defense takes on an added responsibility. Because if we're going to be real, what happens if Lane Kiffin chooses wrong when it comes to quarterbacks? That is the question. What if he just makes a mistake on his decision and it's the wrong one? The defense has to play pretty well. Now, the good news is, and this is something that I take solace in, the defense flashed against Tulane in the second half. It was anytime it was fourth down and you knew they were going to run the ball. Once Tulane was one-dimensional, they ate. They played behind the line of scrimmage. Even if you needed a yard, you weren't going to be able to make it. The defensive line played like we all expected that defensive line to play. Against LSU, it could be a little bit of a different animal. But the weak point in this game, if you just looked at all the stats, the resistible force versus the movable object, if you will, It would be LSU's run offense against Ole Miss's run defense. And Ole Miss flashing against Tulane lets me know that Ole Miss is going to be in a good position to potentially win that battle. And that's pretty big because we always talk about it. What unlocks the Pete Golding defense is 2nd and 5, 3rd and 2. Once you get behind the chains, he's an excellent 3rd and long coach. He's an excellent 2nd and long coach. Occasionally, yes, they will complete a big play that gets a first down completely out of nowhere, but overall, he is really good as a long yardage coach. So it's going to be imperative on Ole Miss to get LSU into those long yardage situations. And how you do that is through the front seven. Andrew Jones played a little bit last week. I expect him to be in the game again this week as well, as everybody seems to be getting back to healthy. The question is, when is Jaylon Braxton going to make it back into the lineup? Whenever he gets on the field, that's probably the last step away from having a completely healthy football team. Luke Haas coming back. I expect to see 12, 13 personnel all over again. Seeing short yardage, 13 personnel just kind of warmed my heart. 3 tight end sets. I love those, especially with the weapons that Ole Miss has. This game will be interesting to see who starts and takes the first snap at quarterback and what Lane Kiffin has cooked up against this Blake Baker defense. Those are the 2 main questions. Anyway, tune in tomorrow. If you have a Fire TV, you can catch me on College Football Kickoff. They're going to interview me about that and put that in there, and they're going to get me basically Friday. They're going to put it on my site as well, so you'll be able to hear what's said. But it's Drake Toll, Gary Patterson, and Tolley is his last name. I forgot his first name, maybe Josh. But we'll see exactly how that goes. It should be a lot of fun, but it's LSU week. We can start campaigning for the game to return to Halloween. There's so many things for Ole Miss fans to be excited about in regards to this game, and we're going to talk about it tomorrow with Matt Moscana, and we are going to talk about it Friday in the Why Ole Miss Wins episode. So just stick around for that. Should be a fun week if we see how it goes. Anyway, thanks for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show and it is completely free. Your support means the world to us. It's another big moment for Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation. A two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, and former college star Jesse Holley, that's his name, and Locked On's local experts as well. College Football Kickoffs preview only is available on Locked On and Amazon Fire TV. So catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.